So here's the data set. This is a different data set, and you'll figure out why. We'll figure out why I'm going to use this one. This is just monthly sales and advertising. We're just going to look at monthly sales and then forecast for it, and construct weekly. So here's the data. Let's see. Time series set. Date, I think. Monthly. So it looks like we've got data from January '89 to April? No, June. June 2012.
April always starts with 6.
Yeah. It's one of those months. 2012. So we got a pretty decent sized data set. And the reason I use this data set, because this is actual monthly data as opposed to Nielsen data, which is not really monthly. We know it's 4-week ending data. And we can scatter and we can regress and we can do all kinds of wacky stuff with this stuff. I mean, all kinds of fun stuff with this. Let's just take a look at it real quick. Why do I have 2 files open and this one I don't? Here's just a graph of the data set. So I can't tell you what it is, but it's sales and advertising, and it's for that period there. And you can see sales is, advertising is pretty high. Sales are unit sales, so it's not sales revenue, it's unit sales. So revenue would be price times that. Dollars. Yeah. So advertising is dollars. Sales is in units of whatever it is that I can't tell you it is. All right. What we're going to do is take this, put it in Tableau, and then forecast and get a margin of error. We want to see how. Well, we know how to do it by hand. We can run a regression, predict. What's the other steps? Create the margin of error stuff. We can do all that stuff. We know how to do all that stuff. We don't need to show off. But what we want to do is first get this into Excel and then get that into Status. So this isn't going to work. Oh, here's what. I am going to delete it. Let's see, where is it? It's just monthly exports. There it is, right there. Oh, that's. Oh, let's see. So the command for this is export. And actually, you can do this using the pull-down menus. I think this already exists. But if you just do File, Export. File, export, export data to Excel spreadsheet.
So you bring up the file you're talking about and then you activate that?
Exactly. So I opened up the stated data set and I chop it off a little bit up there. And we can run regressions, and if we have predicted values and all that kind of good stuff, we can export everything that's in everything that we create. So everything that's in the data set itself, we can export. Here, this is just as is. So once we do that, and this is just the command for that, so you do File, Export, and tell it where to go. As you can see, it's exporting it as XLS, and you have to indicate that. The first row are going to be the variable names, and well, actually, I've got to replace them here, so this should work. Let's see if it works. Export Excel monthly business value monthly export could not be saved. Why is that? Because it's not a G on the G drive. What drive is my flash drive? It's on F. All right. So step one is make sure you know where to put it, and that's going to be F. All right. So I just use the export command. Just to convince ourselves that it's there, let's find it. Here's Excel. Computer. Flash drive. And I forgot what I called it. Right there. Monthly export XLS. So this is the data we just constructed. So this should look exactly like that. So there's the data in Stata, and here is the exported file in Excel. And it's reading, looks like it's reading the dates correctly, right? January? Yeah, so it looks good. All right, so we're good there.
What did the replace command do?
I probably had already created it, so this one just replaced it again. So yeah, you don't even have to have the command. You just need to use the file to pull down menus. All right. And the nice thing about Tableau is it asks you, what are you going to do? You're going to pull an Excel file. You want to open an Excel file, a text file, an Access file. You can go to a SQL Server, Oracle. I mean, it's pretty robust in where you get your data. Plus, it'll ask you if you just want to paste. Also, there's the paste option. So if you did want to copy and paste, it's kind of weird. If you do copy and paste, you copy it, for example, from Stata, and then you tell it to paste, and it automatically grabs whatever's in your memory being copied, and it does it. So it's actually pretty cool. All right, so let's go and open an Excel file. And it was this one, business. All right. The one thing about Tableau is it's fairly fast, but it's not real fast. It's not as fast as Stata. And the reason it's not as fast as Stata is because of the visualization, all the graphics. All right, so here's the data. And this looks just like a spreadsheet. So we're good here. Advertising, sales, year, month, all that. All right, then we go to sheet 1. So the data is basically an Excel-like spreadsheet thing. Sheet 1 is where we're going to build what's called a dashboard.
Is that the Nielsen data we used for the first couple of weeks?
No, this is a different data. We're going to use the Nielsen data in a minute. And then from here, it's really drag and drop. You can do a ton of stuff, but a bunch of the stuff that you're going to do is probably drag and drop. So what I want to do is I want to recreate a graph of the data. So I'm going to take date. I'm going to drag it. Get it? I'm going to drag it there. And then I'm going to take my my sales numbers and drag it to rows. And I've got this, which is showing the data by, by year. Remember, this is monthly data. So you can do a bunch of different stuff with this. You can switch this to month, but then it gives you average monthly sales for the entire data set. So let's switch it back to year. What you need to do is go back to date, drag another one over here, and what, not Excel, what Tableau did was break the data up by quarters. So it recognizes the date function as dates. And it knows that it automatically broke up the data over year, and you can see this is 89 by quarter. So if you wanted to do this by quarter, you can do it by quarter. We have monthly data, so we can actually break this down even more. So we can break this, we can tell it to go over time, over year, by month.
And that time it's not averaging the months.
No. Since we only have, one observation per month, it really doesn't matter what we do. So if we did, if we change this from sum to average, it really wouldn't. Oh, here it is. It wouldn't change it. Or median, it wouldn't change it because there's only one value. Now, if this goes all the way back to the beginning of the data, we can scroll over here to the end of the data set. There's all kinds of really cool data visualization tools. For example, instead of scrolling back and forth to find periods we're interested in, you can take your date, you can throw it into this filter, and you can create this little sliding thing that will narrow in what data you want to use. So, and you can have all these things, right? The problem with this is we want to use the whole data set for our forecast. So, okay, so let's cancel that. All right. Click on that. All right, so here's the end of our data. We want to run regression. We want to construct a forecast. And we want the margin of error of our forecast. So, let's see, what should we do? Forecast.
We right click to get that thing.
Yeah. And we're done. It ran a regression and constructed the margin of error and graphed it for us, all in one right click. Now this is just a graph of the forecast. We can actually get the values. I think by default, what did it do? 2 years? I don't know, let's see. Forecast options. So it looks like the automatic default forecast length is 19 months. So it forecasted 19 months in the future. We can tell it to do however many we want. I don't want 19 months, I only want 12.
So the data is actual through 2011?
The data ended in, let's see, currently using April 2009 to May 2012 to create the forecast through May 2013, yeah. It tells you everything. And we can construct if we don't like a 95% confidence interval, we can construct a 99% confidence interval. So watch, the forecast's not going to change, but the gray area, the margin of error is going to change. So watch the gray area. It should get wider.
How is it going to pick up on seasonal patterns? Will you be able to do that with just 1 year?
The same way we did. It automatically runs monthly dummies in there, in the regression, that we never even saw. So by just right-clicking that, it ran a regression with monthly dummies to pick up the seasonality, and we didn't have to tell it to. If we didn't want it to run monthly dummies, for example, we could tell it not to. Why didn't you show us this on day one? Yeah. Because it's $2,000 per year per person, and yeah. No, it's a great tool. What's that?
Worth it.
After she just said she spends 20 hours, yeah, she spends 20 hours. Now here's the thing about it. The people at Tableau are pretty smart. Kind of like with us, you're all using one key to activate your Tableau. If this was an actual company, for example, I know a company that tried to do it cheap. They bought one license and they were going to share it among everybody in the company. Oh, we're going to outsmart Tableau. Well, Tableau is set up like this. If you've only got one single user license, only a single user can use it at the time. So I could be up there Tableauing my life away, constructing this awesome dashboard, forecast, multi-dimensional stuff, just totally building this awesome tool. And let's say you down in the office down the road, down the what do you call that thing?
Cubicle.
Down the hallway, yeah. The office down the hallway, you decide you're going to open up Tableau. But we've only got that single user license. As soon as she opens it up, it's going to wipe out everything I just did. So you learn that the hard way when you try to go on the cheap at that company. I can tell you the company, it's a marketing company that learned the hard way on the cheap that if it's a single user license, only one person can use it at a time, and they make sure only one person uses it. Because imagine how mad you are when you lose all the work you did because, and let's say you just opened it up because you wanted to take a look at something real quick.
Is it gonna do that to us?
Yeah.
No, it's
a
not.
lot of reasons.
It's not. What it will do to you though is your license will expire in 6-8 weeks, something I'm not sure if but it's good for a couple of months. It's usually good for the duration of the semester plus. And this is what I've told others. If at the end of this class you want to continue to use it, just email me and say, hey, can you send me this semester's activation code, and I'll send. I don't care. I don't have stock in Tableau.
Did we pay for this out of our tuition?
No. This is Tableau is giving you guys a free user license because they want you to learn to use it. And when you go to a firm, they want that firm to adopt it so they can make, instead of having a single user license, they can have a firm adopt it and have some multi-user license, which is again $2,000 per person. And I know that Facebook uses it, and the person that is the Tableau person at Facebook, the one that trains all the Facebook people on Tableau at Facebook, I think I mentioned Facebook twice, is one of my former students, and this is what he does at Facebook. He is the Tableau guy that does all the analytics and helps people with setting up dashboards. So, and Facebook's a pretty good sized company, but they've got a lot of money. Again, this is just a picture, so we can do aggregate by months. Someone asked me a question I forgot. Let's see. Oh, in terms of the regression, if you wanted to describe the forecast, it doesn't really give you the regression output. It kind of gives you some of the information about the regression though. So it tells you it's using a 12-month seasonal pattern, so those are the 12 dummies they're talking about, if you look at the top there. It's using a measure of time, so it's got a time series. It's probably using a linear time series sequence like we use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, as opposed to using the dates. So it's really doing what we just did on the problem set. It's using a linear time series, linear sequence for the time series, and then it's putting a series of monthly dummies for the seasonality. And the information is there, you just have to get it, but 99% of the time, nobody cares about that data. They just want the forecast, they want the margin of error. So in this, you should be able to forecast, copy data. Let's see what happens here. And I'm going to put this. It's using long names, but lower is the lower prediction interval, upper is the upper prediction interval, and then here's the right. So we want to get down to sorted here. Strange. Usually it comes out sorted differently, but we can sort this by. Why did it come out that way? That's strange. What did I grab? Let's do this. Here's another thing you can do. You can highlight and grab data, copy data again. Let's see if that works better. No, it's still doing the same thing. That's weird. But you can sort this and then come up with these. So here's your estimate, here's your upper and lower confidence interval from your forecast. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, to be honest, this could put some of us out of work. It does the regression and forecast for. Here's the problem. Well, it recognizes months, it recognizes years, it recognizes, Tableau recognizes months, years, quarters, days, hours. It recognizes all those things. What it won't recognize is, or at least what it doesn't recognize yet, is 4-week ending periods, 28-day periods. It's not something that's built into Stata yet. Tableau just yet, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because mine isn't the only thing that uses Nielsen data and uses those same dates. It's pretty much every consumer packaged good that's sold in a grocery store uses the same Nielsen data and uses the same dating sequence. So let's take a look at some Nielsen data. Any questions here? Really cool, really powerful, and quite honestly, really easy. We did this in a matter of minutes. We can construct these forecasts, we can change the forecast, we can do all kinds of good stuff. Let's do another one. This is a different sheet, so I'm going to open up.
Is there no way to set it to 4-week periods?
You can, and we're going to see that.
You can, it's just possible.
Is it easier to just convert the 4-week periods into monthly or weekly?
You've got that bonus period.
Yeah, but you can set it all as months. Change them. But either way.
You can. You can treat them like months, but it's going to recognize that it's not a true month, because the way Nielsen data works is it ends on Saturday night, every Saturday night, and it starts over. So unless that Saturday night is at the end of the month, it's not gonna be a true month. All right, so let's do, and this is really going to blow your mind, if it hasn't already. Tasting room data here. What problem set was that? That was,
6.
6. All right, so one of the things we did was we indexed. So you can index one of two ways. We can either put it in Excel and index. I happen to have the codes for indexing now, so, but here's the data you had. We got date, year, region, month, we got that linear time sequence, and then we've got total cases. We want to construct index total cases. Again, you can do that in Stata. It's pretty easy. I'm sorry, you can do it in Excel. It's pretty easy. Let me run through this and generate it. And hopefully I'll get all of them. 1, 2. This is now open and reserved. It'll also save predicted values. So anything you construct, obviously, if it's saved in Stata, you can export it to Excel and then Tableau. Here's the Sonoma stuff, which we didn't look at Sonoma stuff, right? All right, so I constructed index cases. So we're gonna export all this to Tableau using that same export function. I have to replace it. Oh, yeah. All right, so I can use that same function. I don't need to change that to F. But again, file, export, all that kind of good stuff. Let's import some data. Excel. And this is 586, 580. All right, so there's the stuff that well, the only thing we constructed in Stata was this. We constructed the importing, the index cases. But we could have done that in Excel also. And you could do it in Tableau. Tableau has the same, uses the same, not exactly the same, but a similar language as Excel. A lot of, if you wanted to sum and do all those things, divide, it uses a lot of the same language that Excel uses. So I'm going to go to all right. So there's our data. We use the same thing. Put date over here. And let's see, this is years again. So I'm going to try months. Well, remember, it's technically not months, so actually what I would do is use days, week numbers. I'm going to use exact date. Because if there's no 28 4-week ending 28
What is
day
week
period.
numbers?
What's that?
What is week numbers?
If I had, if you have weekly data, if you had the number like week 36, for example,
Yeah.
which week of the year?
Wouldn't have a report.
exact date. Then I'm gonna take indexed cases and put it over here. I think I missed. There we go. So we've seen this before. These are index cases. For what? The total index cases.
When you pulled over the data, part of it went in as factor of dimensions and part of it went into measures.
Yeah.
Why?
Stata knows what you're trying to do. Well, it guesses what you're trying to do. So,
But are they basically data pools, what you can pull from information, or are they different?
dimensions are like axes. And then measures are things you can do, for example, like sums and averages and those kinds of things. Those are things you can make mathematical calculations on. Now this is nothing though. This is pretty lame. What we want to do is be able to compare Napa, Sonoma, blah blah blah, all that kind of good stuff. So what we do is we take region and we drop it into the filter. And I'm just going to select. Holy cow. That is nasty looking. Let's see. I want to, so from here we can do this. Show quick build. And this is what I mean by having kind of the power to make any comparison you want instantaneously without having to fumble through a deck of PowerPoint deck. So, I'm going to take Highway 29 and Napa and compare them. Right? If this was a PowerPoint presentation and someone said, well, let me see what Highway 29 and Highway 12 look like, what would you have to do? You would have to have a graph of Highway 29 and Highway 12. Then you'd have to go through your deck and find that slide, right? And then someone say, well, how did Highway 29 do compared to Silverado Trail? You'd have to go and find that slide. In other words, you'd be fumbling back and forth trying to find, well, that's on slide 47, and you can do it, and it'll look nice. But isn't this nicer? To say, okay, well, I don't really care about Sonoma, so let's get rid of Sonoma. I want to know how 29 did relative to Silverado Trail. You do it on the fly. It's interactive. You do it in the middle of your presentation. Anything you want to see, I can generate. Well, anything, as long as I loaded into as long as I loaded it into the data, you can do these on the fly. If you wanted to throw 29 reserved in there, remember this is index, so we're looking at growth rates. What if we also wanted to look at absolute volume, absolute case volume, right? So we can see, well, how big of a difference is there in the case volume? And one of the reasons why we indexed is because there was a big difference in the case volumes. But what if you wanted to do both? All right, what if you wanted to see both the index case volume and the actual case volume? Take case volume, put it here. And now we could see, let's just use 2. Let's go to 3 now. Now we've got the top graph of index case volume and the bottom graph of absolute case volume. 400,000 cases, this is under 100,000 cases. So now we can see the difference in the relative magnitudes as well as the differences in the relative growth rates. And if we had some other dimension we wanted to see, revenue, for example, we can do 4 panels, as many panels as you want. So it's a really nice tool to have.
Because the data you pulled in was indexed, Tableau figured that out and then gave you an indexed file. You didn't have to tell it to be indexed.
No, but it chooses the axes that best fits the data, that represent the data best. We can change that, by the way. I mean, we could do kind of like what we do in Excel. We can format the axes in a way that we like, that we prefer, for example. But these graphs look pretty good. I would say, yeah, leave them as they are. For example, yeah, so it's gonna, kind of like Excel and kind of like Stata, it's gonna find the axes dimensions that best fit the data, that best represent the data, I should say. And again, the beauty of it, the real power of it, is to have multi-dimensions and to be able to make interactive comparisons on the fly. So reserve, Napa reserve, and so on. And you can actually, you can get rid of all these things and publish these to, you create storyboards, create dashboard, this is a dashboard, but you publish these so that you get, so you only get stuff that you want. We've got our filter, quick filter, and we've got our legend. So this is what you would present, as opposed to that mess.
Show me how you got there again, where it just stopped.
There's it looks like a, is it like an easel, something like this? And it publishes that.
Still interactive as well?
Yeah. So we're still able to do what we want. Yeah, so this is how you would do your presentation. It's kind of like going from, when you have PowerPoint, you can see the sidebars and all those things, and you hit whatever, present, and it does the presentation. So, yeah, if you've got more than one, I mean, you can do like 4 panels or as many panels as you want, although it gets, it can get confusing if it gets too down. It's got GPS capabilities, or GIS now, capabilities, so that if you have data by zip code or by state or whatever it is, you can actually create a map that shows kind of where your customers are coming from. And it'll use colors to represent the intensity of hotspots, of where your customers are coming from. So you can publish it, and that's really awesome. When you see a map of, for example, if you got tasting room data, you want to know where your customers are coming from. And you probably have credit card data when they swipe their credit card, or shipping data when you ship them their data, or when you ship them their wine. Creating a map of where those customers are and who's actually coming to visit your tasting room, that's really cool stuff. And that's true of any store where your customers are coming from. Are they mostly local? Are they 50 miles, 100 miles? And so on. So it's got, and the GIS capabilities have, is one of the newer things in Tableau 9, which is, I think, what you guys downloaded. So Tableau 9 came out, I think, this summer. Really, really cool. It's only going to get more powerful. And if you want to impress somebody, you can do that. It's a little messy, but Sonoma. We don't want to look at Gallup Sonoma. It's kind of depressing, unless you're Sonoma. Out of 12. So very cool, very easy to use. Like most things, there's a learning curve, but there are a lot of videos available to help you. Any questions?
How does it do with really large data sets?
It's designed for really large data sets. Remember, one of the companies using this is Facebook, so they've got data by the probably second.
Yeah.
How long you're spending on Facebook? Well, it's got to be seconds. How many? Facebook's up to how many users now? Over 1 billion. So billions of people being measured by seconds. So it's, it can handle pretty large. And if you go back to the start page, this is where your big data sets are going to come from. Something like Oracle or SQL, one of these big. This one tells you what kind of data set it is already. These are for really large data sets from Amazon, so online data sets. It's pretty powerful. I haven't used it in really large data sets, but I know, like I said, the guy at Facebook uses it pretty much every day.
So I'm getting it. I tried loading a large data set in here and it's not having it. Maybe I got clever.
There is one thing about it is even with the data set I loaded, you saw that it took, it had that countdown. So it is slow in loading data, and that was what I was mentioned earlier. And this wasn't a large data set. It did take some time to get there, so. But it depends on your server and all that other stuff. All right, for an extra credit, I'm probably going to have you do something with this data. I like this data because you can use the filters, and I just think that this is an awesome graph. Also, you can, let's see, pages. Oh, there's your mapping stuff. You can put a title on here. Where is my title? Pages. It should be up there. Here we go. And where am I typing? Title caption. Where is it?
Isn't it over the, just, there's
All right. So, on the graphs you do, I want you to put a title with your name. So, for the people that do that stuff, you don't just hand me the same graph over and over. Also, pick your choice of Napa, Sonoma, compare whatever it is you want to compare. But let's construct a graph like this. We've got index volume up here, we've got total cases down here, and pick the region of your choice, so that we have, so we don't have everyone producing the same graph. Now, there's a handful of you that are going to produce the same graph, but again, there's nothing I can do about that. Any questions? We won't worry about that. Impressed? Unimpressed?
Impressed.
Impressed, yeah. Does forecast, oh, the other thing I wanted to show you was kind of a limitation. But if we click, notice what's graded. Forecast. It doesn't know, again, the whole 28-day, 4-weekend thing. If it was weekly data, it would work, but it's not weekly data, it's 4-weekend data. Did you get it?
What's that? What's that?
Picture?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Did it help?
We'll see.
I'm sorry, what's
What
that?
happened?
That, you can't forecast. So, again, that's gotta be fixable. I haven't figured out how to fix it. The way I got around it to recognize the dates and not to skip over that week that's duplicated in each month, or in 1 month each year, is to use that exact date function. But I just, unless there's a way to customize the dates in Tableau similar to what we did in Stata. Because Stata, we were able to define the 28-day period, and as long as we T-set it and defined our period, Stata was good. As long as we define it, Stata can do whatever it is you want. Tableau isn't really a data analytics tool, it's a data visualization tool, so I wouldn't count on that being again, for all the consumer packaged goods companies, I wouldn't count on this being a stumbling block for too long. They'll figure this out, enough people are going to complain about it, and there'll be a workaround for it. Or they'll just add it to their selections. But yeah, so that's why we didn't do this first. You can do stuff like we were doing earlier, though. I think you could still put like a trend line. And the trend line looks like it has a margin of error on it. Yeah, it's got that same margin of error. You can see the hourglass shape in it. So it'll predict the trend of existing data. It just won't forecast.
Is it building that trend line from the middle of the data set where you click?
No, it's just because that's where I clicked. So, oh, there's a different trend. There's a different trend. But no, you can see how it's clicking. I'm sorry, you can see how it's the trend with the margin of error is using the full data set, and then it's putting that reference point up there wherever it is we want it.
Why is the margin of error wider at the beginning and then narrow in the middle?
Yeah, we'll talk about that today. But I think we touched on it. Did we touch on that last week? Because the margin of error is going to get wider as we move away. But
Oh, I see, because the limitation of the data that's extending on the stuff you haven't.
Yeah.
If we do it, it would cover.
All right, this is your extra credit, if you want. Any final questions? Yeah.
We just turn it over to the next one.
Yeah, turn it in, as a separate sheet from the next homework. And, yeah, so it gets graded separately from the problem set.
Just read those graphs, not doing the whole entire problem.
Yes, but in all honesty, this was the entire problem set, was constructing these index graphs. The cool thing is we were able to do it this quick. And it looks nicer than anything we did, right? Yeah.
So last time when we were doing indexing, some of us used it brought over to Excel, but do you have a command to do it in Stata to do it a little faster?
It's not necessarily faster, it's, it requires more coding, so it's done in Stata. So if you go back to Stata, yeah, so here it is here. So let's go back to the first one. So this is one of those things where you have to do it separately for each one. So it looks like the first one I did was Highway 29 open. So what did I say? I said summarize, which is summarize total cases if region equals 29 open and if the time period equals 1, right? And you're only going to get one observation. So if you look at the number of observations, you only get one. Because remember what we do is we divide every observation by the value of that first observation in that first time period. That's why there's no standard deviation. The min and the max are the same. All right, so narrate it better without having to jump. All right. So I summarized case, so I got the value of that first one here. Then I generated I total cases. That's the name I gave it. And what's it equal? Equals total cases divided by this value. Now, one thing you can tell Stata to do is I use this function rmean, which kind of saves me from having to do what? Copy this value and paste it here. So rmean will remember the mean from the last summarization you did most immediately. So I take total cases, divide it from the mean that I just got from my summary, and I only did that if region equals Highway 29 open. And then basically I run this exact same command, but I change, I do it for every other region. So for the next region, it's not going to be a generate, it's going to be a replace. So what did I do? Summarize total cases again. If region now equals Silverado Trail, again for that same time period of 1. Use the same command. It'll remember the mean from the most recent summarization, but then I changed the region. So basically I reused the same command over and over and over. I just have to change the region Silverado Trail here. Change it here and here. Now, if I was smarter, if I was a better coder, I could probably write a loop to do this. To say go through each one, find the first period. I could probably do a loop for this. Unfortunately, that's not what my strong points are. not writing code and writing loops and those kinds of things.
Why do you have, on the first one, you have some total cases, and then below you have replace I total cases?
Yeah,
How does that?
so in the first one I generated I total cases, right?
Okay.
So you only have to generate it once. But I generated this value only for the Napa 29 open region.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna construct, I wanna replace that same variable, I wanna use that same variable name, but I wanna construct the same variable for Silverado Trail.
Okay.
So the next commands are all gonna be replaces instead of generates. These are all gonna be the same, except I'm gonna change regions. And you'll see the same sort of pattern over and over and over. It really is almost easier to do it in Excel, but this works. It's works like a caveman, in a stone. It's kind of brute force. It's not the most elegant way to do it, but it makes sense to me. And if you're not good at writing loops, which I'm not, then this is how you do it. Same thing here, we can go here, 29 reserve, and then again replace this.
And then when you export all of that, it will pull all of the.
Yeah, so once I'm done with doing all the regions, then I can just kind of look at the data and say, yep, there it is, right? Those are all those zeros, which are the opening, the first periods of all the regions. And you can see the regions, Gallo, 29, Silverado Trail, open, reserve, 29, open, reserve, North Sonoma, Allwine, and so on. And these should all be filled in, yeah, with values. Oops. Looks like we ran out of, yeah, that's fine. There's no data there. Did you do it in Excel?
I did it in Stata too, but I think mine might a little bit faster because I locked in the reference cell, especially in brackets, instead of doing the sum one. But,
Really?
yeah.
So.
So I would just basically do is replace I total cases equals total cases over that number. But I had to direct it towards that particular cell that you would call on the row. And then, that's one result. So I
Do
thought
you have a coding
but I
background?
understand how it works.
Do you have a coding background? How'd you
No,
figure that out?
you said I was gonna do an Excel, so I just did it in Stata.
Oh, so you did do it in Excel?
That's what you taught us, and I just
Yeah.
transferred that to Stata and did it from there. So I just kind of made a command.
So
and-
it'll reference this, so you can reference a cell in Stata, a specific cell?
Yeah.
Really?
I saw him do it, it was neat.
That is
He's a
neat.
Genius.
Let's have him come up here.
Yeah, that's good.
So all you're doing is indexing, right?
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
And so you'd have to find which cell each first.
Still have to do one, yeah, every single one,
So you had to go into the data editor and find each cell?
yeah.
Yeah.
What it was, the way he was able to isolate it, it's like to create like the denominator on the bottom.
Yeah.
It would be, he named the variable column title, and then in brackets, put the number of the row.
Yeah.
And so that it would go to that specific cell identified by column title and row number, and it would use that item as the divider at the bottom.
Yeah.
The same method and everything, so it's exactly doing what you're doing there.
I would prefer my way. Not having to go through and find each cell individually would be, but that's awesome that you did it. That's awesome that you did it. Like I said.
In that case, because the dividers were all at the top of the first.
What's that?
On that particular assignment, it was easy because the first 12, what is it, the first 8 rows or something like that, because there's only 8 regions and then they just repeat. So all you need was the first one. So you can see it within the first 8 rows, everything you need.
data, can you do like while and else?
Yeah.
Do those as well?
No, it's a pretty, apparently the coding in this is a lot like C++, if you know what that is, so, I just don't do a whole lot of that stuff, it's beyond, I don't get it. I literally don't get it, so. Any other questions? All right.